why to participate in the Equity Leadership Academy for States. So as Gregory named at the beginning of our conversation, the Equity Leadership Academy for States is a no-cost benefit to any member and all members of NAEP. And it is a longitudinal engagement. So we would be working with you all for about 6 to 8 months starting in the fall of this year. And we have 4 pillars that are our primary goals for the Academy and our time together for those who choose to apply and participate. One is to adopt or strengthen our current equity lenses. So we all know we're at different spaces in our own equity journeys, and our hope is that by participating in our 3rd cohort, you all will be able to strengthen your equity lens in order to better implement and close equity gaps as a part of your CLNA process. We know that we're about to hit the second time for us to implement our CLNA. So this will provide us with the opportunity to think through what worked well in our last assessment and what might we do differently this time with a more engaged and more robust equity lens with a specific focus on student voice. And we'll get a little deeper into why that's important to us later on in our conversation. The second pillar is centered around building capacity. So we know that what we learn in community with one another within our cohort space needs to also live and exist outside of that space and with our colleagues who might not be able to actually participate in the academy itself, but who are responsible for implementing the CLNA on the ground and who are in direct conversation and indirect relationship with students that we serve. And so our hope is to also build capacity to within ourselves to share what we learn in the space together with those in which we're working in community with and for which we serve. Which leads us to the 3rd goal, which is all around creating community. So for us, relationship is the absolute center, bedrock, heart of equity work. Without deep and meaningful relationships with one another, we're not going to be as successful in closing the equity gaps that we know that we need to see to better serve our most marginalized students. And so for us, creating community is central to this. So throughout the entire time in which we're working together and with cohort 3 members, we're going to be centering that in our work. And then finally, it's also important to us to share our lessons learned outside of the academy space and with other states who are also engaged in the CLNA process so that we can learn and be in community with one another. And we've done this through annual public-facing reports. And so you can find both reports on cohort 1 and cohort 2 on our website, but we'll also get into that a little later in our conversation today. So these are the 4 primary goals of the academy, but we also want to share a little bit more about what is the design of the academy. What am I going to be moving through? What does the training look like? What is the structure? And so we have 6 primary phases of the academy. The first is that we start with a design thinking and co-creation phase with academy participants. So after you apply and if you've been accepted into cohort 3, we would be meeting with each of the state teams individually to have conversations around where are you currently at in your CLNA process? What is going well? What is not going well? How might we best serve your team? What do you want to learn and gain from this experience? And what we learn based on those conversations will influence and impact all of the curriculum and training that you're going to receive from that point on. We don't believe in a structure in which we hold all of the knowledge and all of the expertise, and we're here to just share and impart that knowledge onto our participants. We believe in a co-created learning space where we can learn from one another and from the peers and colleagues in our space. So that's the importance and the reason for our initial co-creation and design thinking phase. From there, we'll move into an equity training. These are going to be 4 2-hour trainings. All of it will be virtual, where we dive in deeper to adopt and strengthen our equity lens, as we named earlier. We're going to have an opportunity for an action research project, which would be boots on the ground. How do I practice what I learned in my equity trainings and actually implement that in a small way within my current state group, including the student representative. So you'll be working directly with a student to implement an action research project that will hopefully really improve the results of your CLNA process. During that time, we're going to provide teams with technical assistance to support that work. So you're never alone. You're always going to be supported by our team at NAEP, but we also have some peer leaders and educators. So folks who were in cohort 2 who will also participate in supporting you through the process for cohort 3 members. And then we'll wrap up with 3 2-hour virtual capacity building sessions where we're talking about, okay, we had our equity training, we did our action research. So now how do we share what we've learned with the folks that we work with and build capacity within our own teams and departments? And then finally, we're going to have a one opportunity to meet in person as a full cohort for 2 days in Atlanta to showcase our action research and to close out our academy experience in person as a full group. As we shared, it is a no-cost benefit for member states, so all of the expenses associated with travel, meals, and everything will be provided for. I will pause there. I don't know if there were any questions that came up in the chat, but we are recording the session so that if you missed anything or would like to refer back to it, you will have access to this. And so you'll be able to see and access the PowerPoint in that way. And of course, you can reach out to us. I'll have my contact information at the end of the call, where if you have any lingering questions around PowerPoint or details, I'm happy to answer them there. Did we mention how often the Academy will meet monthly ? So the way in which this is structured is we actually structure the timing of meetings alongside you. So typically the 4 virtual equity trainings will happen before the end of this calendar year. So depending on schedules and holidays, it's typically a couple times a month in October through December to hit those 4 equity trainings and the co-creation phase. So think 5 meetings between October through end of December for your teams. And then we'll have a couple technical assistance calls in January, as well as capacity building through February and March, and then the showcase in March. And Nakia is actually going to be going over the timeline of events, so you'll be able to see visually how our time will be spent and broken down. We're going to be hitting who the required members are and how many teams shortly, but just preview, we're going to be accepting up to 10 teams, and teams comprise of up to 6 participants per team. But Nakia will be going into more detail there. So if we can go to our next slide, thank you all for your wonderful and thoughtful questions. We really appreciate it. We wanted to briefly hit on what we learned and what the results were from both cohort 1 and cohort 2. So as you can see here at the beginning of the academy for cohort 1, folks, so this was around 2020 through 2021, just so perspective on where we're at in time and space. Before folks entered the academy, only 59% of participants felt confident in their ability to support others with equity initiatives. By the end of our academy, enough capacity was built within team members to where 100% of academy participants at the end then felt equipped to engage in equity-centered conversations and support other staff and colleagues and how to better close equity gaps for students, which was a really big deal. We were really proud of that result. And I also wanted to complement this data point with some qualitative evidence. And so we have Felix Wilson here. Many of you might have seen him co-present alongside us in the past. He was at both of our summits the past few years. But he provided, you all can read the quote that he shares here. But one aspect of what he said that I feel like resonates and really stood out to me is when he said, if we are not always asking how we can do better, we can't get to the solution. So when we're in the academy space, we're constantly engaging with this question around how can we show up better for ourselves and also for our colleagues and for the students and community members that we serve. And we're able to do that in community with one another. So not on our own or with a colleague that we always have these conversations with, but within not only our new state group that we're building relationship with, but also states across the country. And then we can go to the next slide to hit on some of the results that we had from cohort 2. So we had our second cohort that finished up earlier this year. So this was 2022, 2023 cohort members. By the end of their academy participation, 100% of the professional participants had increased capacity to support and put strategies in place to center equity in their work, as well as an increase in knowledge around how to share how we can implement equity initiatives with others within our own departments. So similar to cohort 1, we've been pretty consistent with being able to provide folks with the support that they need. One quote that we were able to pull out from our focus group sessions that we had with participants following their academy participation was when an individual said, the academy gave me lots of ways, even in the language that I use, when I engage people to create a sense of calm and a sense of intentional inclusion when I'm trying to get people's perspectives and reassure them that their perspectives are valuable to me and not just a tick off the box. And so we feel like this really hits on the relational component and the knowledge and skill sharing that we are able to cultivate in the space with one another around improving our own ability to communicate with others who might share our identities or folks who might not share our identities, in ways in which we can see one another's humanity in each other and work alongside each other to make lasting transformational change, rather than what some folks in our last cohort lovingly called chequity, where we're just checking off the box for our equity initiatives rather than engaging in true and thoughtful change. So that's just some qualitative evidence from past participants that we wanted to share. And I cannot remember if I have another slide after this. I do. I have one more thing to say before I pass it to Nakia, before she walks us through our timeline. And I can't believe I almost forgot this, because this is one of the most important parts. So one important component of our academy are our wonderful peer leaders and educators who co-facilitate alongside us. So we have folks from previous academies who already went through the process, who then co-facilitate and become peer mentors to folks who are now a part of the academy. So these are the 3 individuals who are going to be our peer leaders and educators for cohort 3. We have Esperanza Zenon, Francois Odenthal Cruz, and Monica Morrison. I believe Esperanza is on the call. So hello, Esperanza. Francois really wanted to join us today. So we have a video clip that we're going to show later. He's fabulous. He was a student representative from Tennessee, and Monica is absolutely phenomenal and continues to push us on within our own equity journeys. And you all are going to absolutely love working alongside them and hearing from them. So I did want to uplift them in the space so that you know that who you're going to be interacting with. It will be the 3 of us, the NAEP presenters on the call, myself, Nakia, and Kayla, along with these 3 peer leaders and educators and other special guests and experts that we bring from the field to share. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Nakia to share more about academy requirements and what you all need to have to ensure that you have a strong team for the application process.
Thank you so much, Ashley. We're excited to share this information with you. We're excited about the upcoming cohort of the Equity Leadership Academy. As Ashley mentioned earlier, it is a time commitment of 6 to 8 months. Of course, applications are open to be completed now and will be accepted through to the end of this month. We do plan to review those over the course of a couple of weeks and be able to let states know whether or not they are selected. That will happen in the middle of September, where we'll let folks know. I believe the date is September 12th, where awardees will be notified if they are selected. From there, we will move into what we call pre-evaluation, where we meet with you or we send some information to you to gather information about where you are in your equity journey, some other questions related to the CLNA process, et cetera, before we actually move into our co-creation phase, which is designed to truly understand what your experiences are with equity and CTE, because we would like to co-create the training, all of the support that we provide with you and to you, to really meet your needs. From there, we'll go into our trainings. Ashley mentioned that there are 4 equity trainings. We do also provide some technical assistance as well. So that's really to support you with your action research for equity projects, where you'll be practicing what those strategies and skills are through your training. So that's going to be happening from about October till about February. And then from there, we'll move into our capacity building sessions, which really are truly designed to build capacity, enforce the strategies and skills that we learn through the trainings, culminating in one of my favorite parts of the academy is the showcase, which happens in person, where we get to learn from you, with you, be in community with you, sharing your action research, sharing lessons learned from the field, with some time built in for future planning and continued work, because we know this is a journey. The work will continue into your years beyond the time with us. So we really want to put some time in there to think through what planning could and should look like. And then finally ending with a post-evaluation, and those processes or those parts of the academy happen in March and can continue into April. So essentially 6 to 8 months of a time commitment starting in October and culminating in the spring of 2024. And we can move into our next slide. Thank you very much. So I know there are a couple of questions in the chat related to the structure of teams. So we're really looking at post-secondary state members with teams of up to 6, as Ashley mentioned earlier. One of the 6 members will act as a team lead from a state agency. That person is responsible for recruiting a diverse team, a team of folks that can dedicate that 6 to 8 months to this process. That team lead will be primarily responsible for communicating with the team throughout the application process and updating team members along the way. 3 to 4 team members should be folks from post-secondary agencies, specialists, consultants, as well as leaders in your communities, folks that are dedicated to just learning, sharing knowledge to affect change at your institutions or within your community. And finally, one of the key members of your teams should be a student member, and ideally a student that represents one or more of the special populations that are outlined in Perkins 5, to include students of color. So we're really looking at applications from all over the country, and essentially from state teams that really put a key focus on recruiting a student member. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So that's who should apply, what the time commitment is in terms of that 6 to 8 months. We'll include this information as well later on in the session when Kayla goes over it, but that's essentially what our team should be made up of in terms of structure. Next slide, please. So related to student recruitment, as I mentioned, students are a key member of our teams. That was one piece of feedback that we got consistently last year, especially at our in-person showcase, was how important it was to be able to learn in community from our students. Our students are the experts of their own educational experiences, and we want them to be included in any decision-making, any processes that directly impact them. And no one is better situated to address problems or opportunities within CCE and within education than those students and families that experience depressed outcomes. So we really want to hone in on the recruitment of students for this process. We have included some relationship building prompts. So instead of a simple, do you want to get involved or you should get involved, we really want to cultivate relationship building with your students in terms of recruitment for this process. So for example, asking, what do you want? What do you need? How can we help? Our students come with challenges sometimes in terms of accessing their education. So really asking them, what do they need and how can we support them? And then also sharing what we're working on as professionals. And then building that relationship where we're sharing information. How does this sound to you? And how does this sound to you? And what might be me missing and what else might be needed? So those are some ways that you can start the conversation in terms of your recruitment of students. Again, we definitely see the value. I'm sure when you hear from our peer leaders and educators, they'll share the same thing, how important it was to hear from students. And then because one of our peer leaders and educators is a student, it's just going to be a great time being in community with him as well. So any questions about student recruitment, we're happy to answer because again, I can't stress enough how important it is to have a student member on your team. And then finally, I believe we are going to hear from a student, and I think I'm passing it over to Kayla.
So we mentioned that Francois was one of our student members in our last cohort and is going to be serving as a peer leader and educator. So part of the joy of getting to come together in community at the showcase was we wanted to capture folks' experiences in their own words. So I'd like to go ahead and play this short clip so you can hear directly from him.
I guess how I feel about being here is it's just surreal. After being in this context just for so long, being part of this cohort, and just starting this from that first conversation that Miss Tara had with me in class, like, hey, do you want to be a part of this thing? To now being here and after giving a presentation, it's almost unbelievable because, like, last year as a senior in high school, I would have never done this at all. I was content being a supporting character, like just being in the background. I'm still a supporting character, but I'm like part of the main cast. You know, I'm somewhat important, and that's just really cool for me. Doing all this, having these conversations that are so thought-provoking, and being able to go back to my own community and take what I'm learning here and implementing that into the work that I have been given, and just having the tools to do so.
Something I'd love to point out in that is he referenced Miss Tara, right? He referenced who from a state of Tennessee reached out to him and engaged with him and made him feel like his voice was important. So when we're talking about really being intentional as you're building out your teams to go through this journey together, we are hoping that y'all are able to center relationship and community versus a transactional, like, I need you to do this and help me with this. Instead, thinking of how can this also be helpful for you? And so we know that we've thrown a lot of information your way, but we want to make sure that we're also able to provide you with some resources so that you can go back and reflect on everything that you need in order to apply. Like we mentioned before, our applications are already open and we'll be accepting them through August 31st. I'd like to take some time to visibly show you where our key information is, and you can access it from our website. We're also going to be pasting some links in the chat. I invite you to go ahead and open those up in other tabs in your browser and bookmark them to make it really easy for you. We'll also be emailing these links as well. So the first would be accessing our Academy website, and I'll pull over here. Let's see, let me just get a thumbs up that y'all can see the NAEP website. Did I see thumbs up? Okay, good. So when you go to our website at napequity.org, beautiful, right at the front, you're gonna see how to learn more and apply. So we invite you to click here, and it'll take you to the specific webpage about the Academy where you're gonna get a lot of different information. So scrolling down, an important thing that we want to highlight is the application button is throughout this page right at the top. I'll go ahead and show you what the application looks like. It is a Google form. And so it does have a series of questions that if you're thinking, hey, you know, I want to explore what types of questions are on the application, but I'm a little bit nervous about clicking on the form yet, we have you covered because we do also have a sample application. The sample application is going to be sent to you as well, but if we scroll down, so notice a refresher on what the Academy is, you should participate. some more reports about what the outcomes were of our past cohorts. And then down here in these brief sections, we have how do I apply? Click here to access a view-only version to preview application content. If you click there, it'll show you this page, which is also a PDF. So you can also download it and send it to peers that you're thinking of forming a team together with. Like we've mentioned a few times, we only need one application per state, and we're asking that the person who submits the application is going to be the team lead. So we are asking for their contact information, but we are throughout the application are asking you for some more information about your commitment to working with a student from a special population on your team, ensuring some diversity and lived experiences of your team makeup, some questions about your experience with the CLNA, your relationship to NAEP, and your commitment to equity, and then any further information you want from us. And within that document as well, hopefully y'all found the timeline graphic helpful from our slideshow, and we included it there as well. So that was how to get to our Academy webpage, how to find the application, and how to find a sample application. But there are, believe it or not, 2 more great resources that we want to share with you. And those are our FAQ sheet. So I'll scroll down past some wonderful blurbs of how great this program is. And to here, we see our Academy FAQ and our student FAQ. The Academy Frequently Asked Questions document goes over that high-level information that you may immediately need to know when explaining this program to people that you're partnering with. So for example, what is it? What are the components? Why should I participate? Who should apply? Who should be on the team? And how do I apply? All of that is really visually accessible in this document. And then in addition to that, as you're looking to recruit a student member and you want to be able to communicate to them all of this information in a way that's really accessible to what they need to know, we have our student FAQ. And the student FAQ goes through these same data points, but through, again, what is it that a student would really need to know in terms of their contribution and what type of benefit that they could receive from this. And they can also read directly from past student participants of, in their own words, what their experience was like. So all of those resources are going to be emailed to everyone who registered for the webinar. We have the links in the chat. Thank you so much, Ashley, for putting those there. And so we welcome you also to bookmark them so you can more easily find them after that. But like we said, applications are open. They're due at 11:59 p.m. Eastern on August 31st. And then we'll spend some time reviewing your applications and notify acceptance at September 12th. And so throughout this webinar, maybe some questions came to mind for you. So we are about to transition to a Q&A section. But we also know that sometimes your best thoughts happen on the drive home from work or happen later in the day. And so if something comes up for you later, we do have Ashley's contact information on this slide. So please do reach out. Or if you'd like to unmute and share your questions, we invite you to do that now. I see a question in the chat that asks, is there a listing of all previous Academy members? So what I would want to reference you to is back in our Academy website, which I will pull up again. If you look at our reports that are listed on there, we do talk about the states that have participated before. And I'll show you where to access that. So again, if we scroll down to our reports, you're going to see, I'm going to showcase our latest report here. And you'll find a list of everyone who participated in our most recent cohort. And you can find a similar layout on our cohort 1 report. So great question. Thank you. Any other questions? Well, if something comes to mind, again, please email Ashley. And I would love to invite our CEO, Brittany Brady, to say a few words to help close us out. Brittany?
Thank you, and great job, team. I'm grateful for you all sharing this wonderful opportunity with everyone that we are extremely excited about, heartened by, restored by, all of the things, especially because of the intention. I'm glad you all were able to hear from Francois. I also see Yash in the photo here. I see Hennessy, a few of our previous students that have all imparted their knowledge to those who have the power and position to make a difference for students that come after them. And so I want to just thank you all for considering this opportunity. Ashley, Kayla, Nakia, Gregory, all of us on the team are happy to answer any questions that you may have. As you can see, Ashley's email is in the chat, so please don't be a stranger. All of us are happy to give you more insight so you can determine if this is the opportunity for you and for your team. And so we look forward to hopefully being in community with you and reading your applications and better understanding what you hope to center for equity for your state or for your region for this next upcoming year. It takes all of us to be committed to this work. And so we thank you for your commitment to it and hope everybody has a great day and you get a little bit of time back. That's always a gift. So hopefully you all enjoy these next few moments after we close the meeting, and thank you all for your time.